You know how people say like you are leaving money on the table? I'm telling you right now, you guys are leaving calories that you could be burning on the table. And I'm not talking about 100, 200 calories. I'm talking about anywhere from 800 to 1200 calories. I'm talking about that calorie burn. I am actually opening the doors and giving you guys one of the secret weapons that we use in the training room, especially in the NFL or any pro level like football, situation. Basketball, you don't technically usually have to have all of these kind of tricks, but in football, because we have the big guys, sometimes you just got to be able to make it shake and bake. Boxers, wrestlers. When I tell y'all, I've had to work with some stubborn athletes. So I'm going to give you guys a glimpse into Shawnte's training room. Woo! Listen, I am Shawnte Health Wells and Maybell's granddaughter, and you guys are in the Breakfast with Champions. I'm so excited that you guys have joined us here today. We're committed to education, motivation, and inspiration. And I told you all last segment, I had 4 ways, all right? I call them like the 4 horsemen. Y'all can tell I used to love wrestling, right? Wrestling as a kid, of stress-based fat oxidation. So I'm going over the final 2 this week. I told you last time, sleep your way thinner. I told you last time about, you got to stop hating on that stress. So today we're going over the final 2 in a little more detail, and that's norepinephrine and epinephrine. And I'm going to tell you some secret ways that we tap into these pathways. This is how. Now, my record is literally 6 pounds in a day. That has been my absolute best that I've actually been able to do in a full days period. And not even a full day. It literally was from about 4 a.m. until he had to weigh in at 7 o'clock. I'm just saying. So listen, it's possible. It's just not widely known. And it's something that, you really kind of don't want people to start being on a yo-yo once they learn some of these tools. So that's always been my fear with sharing it with the average Joe Blow. But if you're someone that's responsible, if you're someone that maybe you just need a little jolt, I got something that can help you here today. And guess what? Not only is this going to help you, get those calories that you've been leaving on the table by not burning them, but it's also going to help your heart. This is something that's also going to help your energy level, help you conquer and move past fatigue. So, I know you want to know. Tell me more. All right. So, first things first, epinephrine. Can we say epinephrine? Can y'all unmic so I can make sure that you're awake? And I want to count to 3, and I just want you to yell out epinephrine. All right, we ready? 1, 2, 3. Epinephrine. Epinephrine. All right. So I got your attention. All right. So this is us tapping into that fight or flight pathway. I don't know how many of you guys watched The Secret, and there was a guy on there, Dr. Dennis Waitley, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, and he talked about how in the 80s they discovered, that if they actually had hooked you can measure this too because there's biofeedback equipment that can measure it. If you had athletes, and specifically they were dealing with Olympians, run the race in their mind, it literally fired all these, every single thing as if they were actually in that competition. So it was technology that that NASA uses with athletes and with astronauts and, simulations and things like that. So guess what? The sports world was able to tap into that. Where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this information is, let's say your kid was trapped under something, or someone that you really, really loved, if they were trapped under something. Have you guys ever heard of people having a just unknown strength? Anybody being able to lift cars and things like that to free somebody? Any of you guys ever heard of those kind of stories?
Yes.
Yes. So they're tapped into their fight or flight. What if I told you you can do this, and no, you don't have to have the VR glasses to do it, but you can literally take yourself there in your mind. Here's what happens. Epinephrine is going to do something, which is what we want. If you want to actually have lipolysis happen, which is burn that fat, those fat calories, instead of just burning the other fuel sources available to you within your body, you want to specifically tap into that. You need to go ahead and you activate that. We can literally, I literally would have athletes, whether it was a wrestling match, you're literally going, and I would time them, put them on an incline, on a treadmill, or if you have a step, it could be one step, and literally going up and down, because the active motion of actually walking up a step has the highest caloric burn of any type of form of exercise that you're going to do. That includes riding a bike. I ain't telling you about something I heard. I'm telling you something that I know from being in sports medicine all of this time and doing it on a very high level. So here's the thing. So if it was a wrestler, you're wrestling, you're whatever your toughest competitor or whatever that thing is, I put them there in their mind space. So we're either on an incline, either in the stadium. I don't know if you guys have ever seen athletes going up and down those stairs. There's a reason why. So not only that, some people, when they saw, I got messages from when there was an episode, what's her name? Tardy for the Party. Blonde-haired girl on the Kim. She went to this place and they had these wraps. So there are wraps that we literally can put on you. And there's some high-level celebrities who know right people, and you can actually get them. And if you're trying to fit in a dress or you're trying to get some in, it absolutely works. There are solutions that you can dip them in. And so for me, I would actually wrap my athletes in those, have them tapping in to norepinephrine by running this, setting their mind to the actual competition, timing it, and having them doing the motion of climbing a step or actually being on a step, or if it was like, torrential downpours in South Florida, then we're on a treadmill at an incline. When I tell you, burn, baby, burn, I so wish I could have played that clip because that's where I wanted to do that right there. Burn, baby, burn. All right, wait, there's more. Any one of those things would work. Even if I did not have him going up and down, or her up and down the steps or going at an incline, it would work just with the mental exercise. If I'm lying, I'm flying. You can actually pull up and actually tap into some research. Those of you who have actual Oculus glasses or VR or virtual reality things, it's even easier because you could actually, activate some kind of program. It's something to activate whatever it takes to activate that fight or flight within you. It's going to innervate and cause a stimulation of that epinephrine. All right. I just wanted to make sure that you understand that pathway. Why do we want to stimulate epinephrine? And especially if you have a short time frame, or especially if you're someone that has tried so many different things. This is why I like to have this in my tool shed, because some people require what we call metabolic confusion. I'm going to say it again for the people in the back, and I would love someone to type it in the chat. Metabolic confusion. You have, reduced your calories so much and you're not seeing any type of fat loss. You have, increased your exercise and you're not seeing any type of results. You have tried every different type of plan from Sunday. If you're someone that has tried all this stuff and, you may possibly even have what they call it, I think it's called Chagas disease. Listen, that only would account for 30% of it. You're probably someone that can only lose or release through metabolic confusion. That's a term that's actually a real thing. All right. So here's where the other solution comes in: norepinephrine. So these two can work in tandem, especially if you've hit a plateau, or if you had a short time period, or if you just wanted to be able to spend the fat calorie money. I love norepinephrine the most because there's so many pathways and so many things that I can do to stimulate this without you calorie restrictions, without you working out or exercising. It's a lot easier for me to get anyone to tap into this. All right, so are y'all ready? If you ready, say ready. Those of you in the listening lounge, type in the chat, ready. I need to know if you're ready. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. Let's rock and roll.
Ready. Let's go. I'm ready.
All right. So when I teach my students about this, I literally have this little chant. All right. So I literally tell them, I introduce it by saying, who that? Who that? I'm talking about norepinephrine. Who that? Who that? I'm talking about norepinephrine. Just to make sure that it sinks in their head. There's a reason why we use ice and cold therapies so much in sports medicine, because it stimulates norepinephrine. There are lots of ways that we can do this. I know what you're saying. Man, I ain't trying to take no cold shower. How much do you want to go ahead and lose those calories for free? I ain't talking about a little bit. I'm talking about 800 to 1200. You have to manipulate the EE, your energy expenditure. All calories aren't the same. We can create deficits beyond just nutrition, beyond just your physical movement. We can tap into the hormonal responses within your body, and norepinephrine, as of today, is one of the best ways to do it. Here's why I'm telling you, I know for a fact this works. Sometimes there are guys that would come to me in their contract, maybe they're switching positions when they're coming into the NFL. This guy may need to drop 10, 20, 30 pounds. Or even when they're going to retire and they just want to, because maybe we had to put weight on them and they want to, get back down to something that's more sustainable for their day-to-day life. You get what I'm saying? So literally all I did was manipulate this last guy last year who's retired, former Dolphin. Literally all I did was manipulate his water and started playing around with the placement of cold. You can do this with cold wraps. You don't have to get a cryo chamber. You don't have to go and get the most expensive type of equipment. I'm telling you for a fact, if you saw his pictures from 2 years ago versus his birthday pictures last year, you'd be like, are you freaking kidding me? And I'm telling you, this is not through some like, Ozempic or some, whatever the new latest, wing methods that they got. It's not through none of that. It has literally been through tapping into norepinephrine. So I know who that norepinephrine is. So wraps, you can do cold wraps. There are zones in your body that will stimulate what we call brown fat. All right? Brown fat. I need you to understand. Brown adipose tissue will help you literally burn fat. It spins fat. That is the fuel source that it uses. Lipolysis will happen. You will spend that fat calorie money. I'm talking about while you're sitting down working, while you're going through your day-to-day. It will spend that fat calorie money. That's what I like to call it. Anywhere from 800 to 1200 calories from that alone in a 24-hour period. Listen, 1 pound, we're talking about, that's 3,500 calories. So if I can at least spend 3,500 more calories than you're actually, consuming in a day, and I can play with your metabolic rate, that's the best way for me to do it, is the things that you're doing at rest. Now, there's some other little nutritional, methods that you can use, but I'm telling you about something that you can do for free or almost free. So what are some of these zones? I'm glad that you asked. All right. Before, in the early 90s, it was believed that only adults and babies had brown fat. You notice how kids have a whole lot of energy? That's because they have such a rich supply of brown fat coursing through their bodies. That's that. That's why when you were much younger, you could eat a whole bunch of junk, and you notice how you didn't gain weight. I'm not saying every single solitary human, but for the most part, you were able to go crazy and eat all kinds of junk, and it didn't affect you or penalize you for the most part. That is because you had more brown fat at play. As an adult, we have a little less of it, but here's hope. We can actually stimulate it. And that is a way that we are actually tapping into the power of norepinephrine. So when I tell you that norepinephrine, that's who's over there answering that door. So I want you to understand, bat. You trying to bat that white fat up out of here. We gonna bat that white fat up out of here. Multiple ways. So we can do cold wraps. We can place cold wraps, you know, where your shoulders are, on the muscles. I'm not talking about putting it directly on the bones. Also in the front, on the chest. You see, you have like what they call like your collarbone right here in the front of you. You can put it just below, just, you know, above. You want to have a barrier if you're using, you know, the wraps. You don't want to put just the cold directly on your skin. You can also place one on the lower part just below your navel. What is all of this doing? If you're someone that I had to get there and get there quick, guess what? I'm putting a cold wrap on the lower part of the abdomen. I'm putting one across the back. I'm also putting one on your shoulders. Why? Because I'm tagging in brown fat. You know how like in the WWF, how, you know, they would have the tag team, you know, people, you could tag in your partner. Guess what I'm doing? I'm tagging in that brown fat. I'm tagging in. Yes, that's what I'm talking about, Ken. I see them GIFs. Y'all know I wish I could go crazy with them GIFs. I'm tagging in norepinephrine so it could go hard in the paint and give you, guess what? That free 800 to 1200 calories that we're leaving on the table. You could literally just stick your feet in an ice bath. You could literally, to go ahead and get this started, you can also place your hands in, you know, a cold bowl, put some ice, put a little bit of water, and dip your fingers in there and do just a 2-minute timer. It's better than nothing. So if you don't want to do a cold plunge, if you don't want to do a cold shower or even a contrast shower, which is going to definitely stimulate brown fat and help you access this norepinephrine. Also, fidgeting. I mentioned it last week, but I didn't have time to go into it. Listen, fidget is the ticket. I literally did a post on Facebook telling people fidgeting, literally just shaking and bouncing your feet, you know, shaking your hands. You can set fidget alarms for yourself. Fidgeting will help you tap into norepinephrine. Notice, listen, there's nothing you had to eat to do it. There's no workout that you had to go and do to get it. This is free calories that you could be burning that you are leaving on the table. So I want to make sure we understand. We want to increase lipolysis, meaning we want to spin the fat for fuel. If you want to do that for free, you can do that by tapping in to your brown fat. Cold is the fastest, one of the quickest ways to do it, but fidgeting is also another way to do it. You can take your normal shower, and then at the end, you can just turn the water to cold. And then after, you know, a minute or two, you can just turn it back to warm. I'm telling you, this absolutely works. This is why any training room that you go into, whether any sport you're playing, you will see that trainers have these whirlpools in there for this reason. We also have a crap ton of cold packs, hot packs. We utilize this every single day. This is also a way that we're keeping our really big guys on the field. This is how we're keeping them in the MHO. There's 4 categories, you know, that you can be in. You could be a metabolically healthy, obese person. You can be a metabolically healthy person of normal weight. You can also be what, for lack of a better term, what we would consider a skinny fat person. You know, you could be an unhealthy, normal weight person metabolically. This can help you go in the right direction. I'm telling you something that I am living through even myself. So there are other manipulations, and I wanted to make sure I have time for you guys to ask questions and all of that. But I have an opportunity for you guys to really, I really am opening the vault fully. I am offering, in honor of my grandmother, next week, Saturday. It's always been a dream to launch, listen, Mabel's Virtual Health School. So we are officially doing our soft opening next week, Saturday, on her birthday, which is April the 27th. So if you want to learn 10 hidden ways, in addition to what I've already talked to you about, there's even, you guys, there's actually a safe drug that you could actually get a prescription for if you're really having trouble with losing weight. If you wanted to use it temporarily, or throughout the year. I'm not telling you something that I heard. I'm telling you something that I know about. And I promise you, it's something it's been around for at least 15, if not 20 years. And I'm telling you for a fact, I've tested it and I have actually referred others and had, even some of my athletes who were really troublesome with the whole fat loss, piece. So secrets like that are things that I'm going to also be covering, because this is not something that you hear in the mass with the masses, and that's not something that the normal weight loss industry, which I am not a part of. I'm in the sports medicine industry, so we have to have results. It's either you have results or you fired. That's how my industry is, that cutthroat. Tom Brady was the only one that actually told the truth about how this industry is. We're in the what have you done for me lately? If you cannot produce results, you are done. It's just that they don't care how long you've been in school. They don't care what you've done maybe long ago. It's what have you done for me lately? And are you using things that are going to get us results right now? Every single pro athlete is a financial asset for the business of that sports organization. They don't play about those assets. So I can't come with fake foolery that, a lot of these health influencers and some of these weekend warrior, personal trainers have come up with. Like, it ain't that, because you will not last in this industry. So I'm telling you, there are ways that you're unaware of. And if you believe that the NFL has deep pockets, I'm telling you, I know that I know that I know. And I'm telling you, there are things that you're not aware of that we use to conquer fatigue, as well as fat loss, as well as control blood pressure. Because when you have guys at a certain size, we want to make sure two things are not happening. And you know what those are? We're making sure they don't have type 2 diabetes. We're making sure that they don't have, heart disease or high blood pressure, because it is not possible for them to play and actually perform with all of those things. All of this ties into their energy. All of this ties into how the type of fat and me manipulating something called adiponectin. So if you want to know more, you can click that link today, and only today. I'm doing this for 24 hours. Listen, you can bring someone to this for free. You can literally get a buy one, get one free special, or you can use the code BWC and it will take 50% off of the ticket. So this is next week, Saturday at 2 p.m. If you guys want to tap in, it's also in the chat. Open the floor for questions. We got 3 minutes before we turn this thing over, 2 minutes before we turn this thing over to Barbara Majeski and the collective. Any questions? The floor is open. Ooh, quiet stage.
Before health, and I didn't know if they really worked. There was like a company, almost like a juice company or another type of company, where you could, get on the subscription plan, and I didn't know if they really worked. So
How about if I told you I could teach you your own like smoothie, version, your own like concoction that you could do and suit it to your taste. As long as certain things are in there, that you didn't have to be worrying about that. You could actually do it yourself and actually play with it. And so here's the thing that I love to do with when I'm doing like a master class, I like to also offer you a health mastermind. So that is all included in the Energy Summit. Everyone who signs up for the Energy Summit, you get to tap in and you can choose whichever one. I have Wednesday morning ones and we also have weekend ones, but you will get that opportunity to get tracked. And as well as that, we can test and play around and manipulate with things that may work for you, because every solution is not for everyone. So this is why you have to have multiple options. So yeah, Marilyn, there's some things that work and some that don't. And I'm telling you, I promise you, Beyonce dropped those 20 pounds when she was, getting ready to shoot that movie. I think it was Dreamgirls. That's because she tapped into, and I'm telling you, I know for a fact that they use some of those solutions. And so there are concoctions that you can drink that can absolutely turn that disco inferno on. This is why I wanted that song, Burn Baby Burn, Marilyn. So I guess I got to just sing it out loud. Burn Baby Burn. Any other questions really quick in these final 30 seconds? So I hope you guys will tap into my Big Energy Summit. I am Shawnte Health Wells, your injury prevention expert. Bert over here. So this is Saturday morning. I'm so happy to see Barb, and I hope you guys will help me honor and celebrate my grandmother next week, April the 27th, from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. You can come to the Big Energy Summit if you want 10 ways to lose weight that's been hidden from you. All right, Barbara Majeski, over to you.
Oh, hey, about that Big Energy Summit. I love it. I'm passing the mic to Mary Lynn for a room reset while I load up my coffee. Load it up, sister, load it up. Good morning, good morning. You are in Breakfast with Champions, the Millionaire Breakfast Club, where everybody gets a seat at the table. We are here Monday through Friday, starting at 5 a.m. And yes, you may have noticed we opened later this morning intentionally, Saturdays at 7 a.m., trying a new thing here. So we'll keep you posted. Definitely going to give it a month, see how it goes. 9 a.m. is the Sunday worship room. Lots of new rooms opening various times a day. Jeremy opened a Bible study last night. Rocky opened an amazing room on social media about going viral. Barbie, that would have been an amazing one for you. And then, in May, we've got a series starting with Bruce Pulver. So just best thing to do, let me say, is just tap the notifications. Then you know when we're here for all the motivation, education, inspiration. And with that, I will pass over to Barb, see if that coffee is ready. The coffee is still going, but I'm trying to multitask and put the link on my Instagram and invite some people.